A very good evening to you all. Welcome to English News Bulletin here in Rwanda Television. We are glad you could join us. Let's begin the edition with the headlines. Foreign investors praise Rwanda for smooth return on investment, boosting business appeal. The National Consultative Forum of Political Organizations reports transparent, fair senatorial elections, showcasing Rwanda's commitment to democratic principles. I'm Olive Nete. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Now let's take a look at the news. Foreign investors applaud Rwanda's ease of exporting their return on investment. This prompts many to prefer doing business in Rwanda, and due to this, it eases doing business policies. Prince Manzi with more.
There are countries across the world that impose heavy measures on exporting the return on investment. This is different for investors in Rwanda, as some of them elaborate.
And then the business climate in Rwanda is also a very, very important aspect. For example, I'll give you one example. In Rwanda, you're allowed to plow back your profit into the business and to take it out when you want. You understand? You are not obliged to put the money, keep the money in Rwanda if you don't want to keep it. You know, once you made money, you're allowed to do whatever you want to do with the money because it's your money. So they respect your decision on what to do with the money. So that's also a very important thing. One very peculiar thing that has made so many people want to invest in Rwanda is the aspect of security.
The most important thing, and which Rwanda is doing very well around, is ensuring that the laws that support investment are in place. We've seen significant traction supported by Kigali International Financial Center in repealing and redrafting and even developing new laws that support investment. That gives an investor clarity around, if I put my money, this is the way the laws of the land are going to treat that investment. So it leaves people with a very clear mind as to what does it mean to invest in this particular country. And Rwanda is doing very well in doing that.
The Ease of Doing Business World Bank report ranked Rwanda as the second in Africa and 38th globally. The return on investment takes 2 to 4 days due to the inspection and the price of sending that is said to be high, as elaborated by the economic experts Srato Abyarimana and Valence Rukesha.
One of the areas that has contributed to the improvement of doing business in Rwanda is the facilitation of repatriation of income from Rwanda for foreign investors. So there is no limitation, there is no serious hurdle. One of the areas that still needs to be improved is perhaps the rate of the charges paid by foreign investors to repatriate the money, the income. It's still deemed a bit higher than the regional rates, and that can be contributed to, that can be addressed by higher competition in the financial sector and maybe further development of the financial sector.
Normally banks have to, price for the service offered, but they also put in some margins. How much have they invested in their technology to be used in this system? How much are they investing in the employees that are working on these transactions? And all that, and the risks involved, of course. So as competition becomes stiffer, of course, the bank that charges less will be the bank that has more clients. So with the competition, fostering competition within the financial ecosystem will probably also help in reducing the costs.
In the second National Strategy for Transformation, NST2, Rwanda aims to double private investment from $2.2 billion in 2023 to $4.6 billion by 2029. Even though investors are not allowed to invest in foreign currencies, they are allowed to save in them and send them to their countries, as elaborated by John Gwangonga, the governor of the Rwanda Central Bank. There is no channel to invest in foreign currency because it is difficult here, because you understand that we use Rwanda francs in all activities. And if one poses as an investor, and text them. Not many can do it, but in banks they are allowed to open an account and keep it in foreign currency as it is and put it in the block account without any problem. Some countries allow only sending a half of the return on investment, and others impose heavy taxes, and other countries do not allow the export of the return on investment. Globally, sending a $200 worth return on investment is charged 6.8% of this worth.
Thank you, Prince, for the details. Now to health matters. Gynecologists have emphasized the need for increased efforts in safeguarding women's lives and preventing postpartum hemorrhage during childbirth or surgical procedures. Inora Gladys with more.
These doctors say that postpartum hemorrhage is the #1 cause of death for women during childbirth, where 14 million women in the world suffer from this problem every year, and about 70,000 of them lose their lives. 90% of those with postpartum hemorrhage problems are from developing countries. Dr. Ruzindana George is a gynecologist at the University Teaching Hospital of Kigali and the vice president of the Rwanda Society of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. He points out that it is urgent to help mothers who are affected from these problems.
So we have postpartum hemorrhage is one of what I would call the major contributors of maternal and mother mortality and morbidity. So postpartum hemorrhage, we are having several workshops which are going to help with how to deal with the causes of postpartum hemorrhage. Many, but the 4 leading causes are usually uterine atony, when the uterus cannot contract adequately. We also have retained or placental tissues which have not yet been removed properly. We also have, I would call them like lacerations or tears within the vaginal or canal, which have to be dressed and also repaired adequately, as well as also having issues with the coagulation. So if we give blood products adequately, we are going to address these causes.
Dr. Esther Chin is also a gynecologist doctor and one of the trainers in this conference. She points out that technology that is being used nowadays in helping women to give birth and also those with different sort of complications is one of the things that prevent them from having postpartum hemorrhage and all other cases that can cause the death of women giving birth.
We know that the burden of need is quite high. I also do academic global surgery. That's the other hat I wear. And we know that OB-GYN as a field is very dependent on surgical care systems. And even when it comes to, say, postpartum hemorrhage, we're talking about 14 million women who are affected by that yearly and 70,000 deaths. So I think it's hard to argue with those numbers. And part of the solution to that is to equip the healthcare workforce, not only surgeons and obstetricians and gynecologists, but also our GP colleagues, nurse midwives, and the like.
These gynecologist doctors also point out that taking care of lives of women is really important because when they lose their lives and leave newborn babies, newborns 3 to 4 have high risk to lose their lives in 2 months after the death of their mothers when they are not well taken care of. So far in Rwanda, there is 140 specialized gynecologists, including 8 women. The purpose of Ministry of Health is to increase the number of these doctors by 4 that works in health sectors within 4 years, including gynecologists. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Enora, for the details. Now to more news. The National Consultative Forum of Political Organizations has announced in a report today that the recent senatorial elections were transparent, fair and free. The report also highlights this as a demonstration of Rwanda's ongoing commitment to fostering democratic processes and ensuring free, fair elections at all levels. We have details with William Evans.
Election observers who had been assigned to different districts countrywide affirmed that the recent Senate elections were free, fair and peaceful. These were deployed by the National Consultative Forum of Political Organizations to monitor elections of senators countrywide that were held on Monday and Tuesday this week.
13th, which was the first day, I was in the Eastern Province. Voting started on time and the entire process was smooth. On 17th, the second day, I was in UR Rwamagana campus. Here, voting also went smoothly and started on time. Vote counting was also transparent.
However, some observers note that more effort has to be made in streamlining a few aspects as well to make this process even better next time. They should encourage and support voters to come participate in a timely manner to avoid incidents of voting closing, yet there are people still on their way to vote. If must be, they should facilitate them. Honorable Mukama Abbas, the spokesperson of the National Consultative Forum of Political Organizations, in his remarks emphasized that Rwanda has made great strides towards peaceful, free and fair electoral processes in the region and Africa as a whole. This is a demonstration that Rwanda has made good progress and not about to backtrack. We cannot be compared with many African countries because of how we organize our electoral processes that are free, fair, and transparent from beginning to the end. This is what we can tell Rwandans. As it was the case with the presidential elections, the Senate elections too were free, fair, and transparent, which is a reflection of our electoral process. The National Consultative Forum of Political Organizations was represented by a total of 62 electoral observers across all the 30 districts in the election of senators elected by specific councils in accordance with the administrative entities and those elected among lecturers and researchers of both public and private universities and higher learning institutions. William Evans, Mutabazi, RTV News.
Thank you, William. Now to judicial matters. On Wednesday, the Court of Appeal continued hearing the appeal case of Mugimba Jean-Baptiste, who is being prosecuted for the genocide against the Tutsi. The prosecution reaffirmed that the evidence supporting his 25-year prison sentence remains valid. We have details. At the trial on Wednesday, the prosecution was given the opportunity to detail why Mugimba Jean-Baptiste's appeal is unfounded and to argue that the 25-year prison sentence he received is appropriate. Regarding the claim by witness Dam that a meeting to plan the genocide against the Tutsi was held at Mugimba's house, even though Mugimba denies it, the prosecution argued that Mugimba's denial lacked credibility. They asserted that Dam's testimony was reliable, given his role as a councillor in the Nyakabanda sector and his participation in the meeting. Mugimba claimed to the court that the witness Dam had never been a councillor and was merely pretending. In response, the prosecution conducted a cross-examination, revealing that Dam had indeed become a councillor, replacing another who had fled due to being among the Tutsi that were targeted for extermination. Another point of contention was the contradictions between witness testimonies and the prosecution's case. The prosecution detailed to the court that Mugimba's claims were unsubstantiated, as discrepancies in the witnesses' statements did not negate the evidence of his crimes. They emphasized this point by referencing similar cases adjudicated by international courts, including the ICTR. The prosecution also addressed Mugimba's claim that his accusers want to seize his property. They clarified that his claim was based on a document showing that the people who had previously misled him in the Gacaca courts regarding his property payments he had to carry out. The court explained that the claim regarding the property and allegations of deception was irrelevant to this case. The prosecution emphasized that this claim lacked merit since none of these people allegedly seeking to seize Mugimba's property testified in the case. The hearing concluded at 1 p.m. and will resume on Thursday. On March 17, 2022, the Chamber of the High Court for International Crimes in Nyanza District convicted Mugimba Jean-Baptiste of conspiracy and complicity in the genocide against the Tutsi. Mugimba, a former employee of the Central Bank of Rwanda and Secretary General of the CDR party, played a significant role in sowing hatred among Rwandans. Back to health matters, the Minister of Health, Dr. Sabin Nsanzimana, urged for action-oriented solutions to address the challenges facing Africa's surgical profession, and this was during the closing of the second Pan-African Surgical Healthcare Forum in Kigali, which began on September 16. We have details. The two-day conference held from September 16th to 17th focused on developing a strategic roadmap to improve equitable, safe and timely surgical care across Africa. Discussions also addressed advancing national surgical policies and strengthening regional cooperation. Participants highlighted ongoing challenges in their country's surgical services, noting that Africa's rapidly growing population is increasing the demand for these services.
Look at the gaps and then try and fill them so that every person in Africa will have access to good quality surgery at the time they need it, and it should not impoverish them. They shouldn't go home poor because they've had to pay for surgery.
We need to put in more efforts in building surgical system, in ensuring that the quality of care for our patients that undergo surgical intervention is safe, is affordable, and of course is accessible. And that's what we are trying to do with bringing equity across board and helping us to achieve the universal health coverage goals as well as the health-related sustainable development goals.
Dr. Abebe Bekele, Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Academic Affairs and Research at the University of Global Health Equity, emphasized that investing in surgical services not only saves lives, but also boosts economic growth. He highlighted the significance of the forum in advancing these goals.
Surgery is perceived to be very expensive. Surgery is perceived to be high-tech. It needs a lot of well-trained people, a lot of resources, but it's not. We have a lot of people in the rural community, unaddressed, who do not have access to surgical care at all. We only count those who die in the hospitals because they manage to come to hospitals, but the majority don't even come.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Sabin Nsanzimana, concluded the forum by urging health officials to address the challenges facing the surgical profession in Africa. He emphasized the need for action-oriented solutions to tackle the continent's most pressing surgical needs.
Where are these people going to work from? Space. Our facilities, our hospitals, our theater rooms, how safe are they to ensure that we don't get infections after surgery? If you go back in our teaching hospitals, you probably see a few changes happened, maybe here and there, but generally, these facilities have not improved that much in the last 2 decades or more. And yet pathogens are growing. They're actually moving faster. They are more organized and strategized than we are. Infections, viruses, bacteria, too many new pathogens, even variants of variants. Number 3, even supply systems, even if we can't produce here, we can ensure that what is produced elsewhere gets to us at a reasonable cost, on time, and we treat cheaper.
The Pan-African Surgical Healthcare Forum, PASHEF 2024, an African platform dedicated to advancing surgical services, saw participation from 40 countries, represented by surgeons, health ministers, and state ministers. During the forum, these nations signed 15 landmark resolutions aimed at transforming surgical healthcare across the continent. The story brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin. On behalf of the English news production team and technical team, thank you for being with us. Goodbye.